Islamic counseling cannot be extracted from mainstream counseling. And the reason being is because the current science has so much to offer in terms of knowledge about how do we develop ourselves, what is it about our psychology, and what things are out there to help us that we as Muslims or Muslim or Islamic scientists, we cannot stay oblivious to. We have to take that on board. However, there are some adjustments that need to be done, or some additions, or maybe some changes of perspectives, and that's what I'm going to show you. Plenty slides in that session today. So what you're going to see here is CPCAB model of supporting change through the process of studying counseling itself. So if you are to be a student of counseling, psychotherapy, or coaching with CPCAB, which are probably the most renowned course providers here in UK, this is how you're going to learn to juggle different aspects, different aspects of working with clients. So you will look at ethics and morals, you will look at relationships, you will look at diversity and difference. Those two are they're not the same. So difference between you and others, and diversity is about versatility of people's approaches to life, which are influenced by culture, religion, and personal beliefs. Working with keeping them in mind, meaning if you are helping someone, if you're giving nasiha in our language, which is advice or support, then you keep them in mind and you're doing it for khair. Now, if you are working with awareness of the self, then we're talking about the model of the selfhood, isn't it? We're talking about akal, we're talking about galp, we're talking about fitra. So you want to really concentrate on what's going on in that other person or yourself, if you're investing in yourself, on those levels which we know are important according to Quran and Sunnah, and to what even Ghazali told us that constitutes a model of the self. And then we are also going to study, if you're interested in counseling, the framework of skills, theory, and techniques. Okay, so what does it mean is that not only you practicing being with someone for khair, for good, for sincerity, but also you need to juggle different theories and techniques in order to make them able to move on, to make them able to live their life to their fullest potential. And working reflectively is probably one of the most important aspects, because not only if you study in counseling, you are subjected to feedbacks from your peers, from your students, but also you have to reflect. So for those of you who don't know, to pass the qualifications of a counseling within CPCAB regiments, you need to write plenty reflections, plenty self-disclosures in terms of how you experience this wheel of seven criteria. And now in our perspective, from Islamic perspective, we would say, well, actually, self-reflection is nothing more or nothing less than tafakkur, something that we've been encouraged to do anyway with the moment that Quran came to life. Even before that, we know that Prophet ﷺ, he was extracting himself, he was going to cave, he had to contemplate, to do the tafakkur on what's going on around him and how is it affecting him. And I think I want to emphasize how ethics and morals are important in Islamic counseling. Just before I show you another slide, the reason why it's so important, it is because we are having in Islamic counseling a duty to follow what Sharia has outlined for us. And things like being honest, things like not lie, meaning not to give false promises to another person that you can help them if you don't have the skills, if you are not proficient enough. Things like maintaining their best interests, also making risk assessments comes in place. and maintain the contract, which we call contracting. So that means keep the confidentiality, keep their best interest in mind, and if there are any emergency, make them aware beforehand that there might be other parties involved. Now, being ethical and being Islamic counselor means also that you are looking at ethics which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala outlined for us. So really it is about tarbiyah of yourself in that process of helping, but also tarbiyah of another person, meaning we're looking at the traits of character, and perhaps we're looking at any evidence of diseases of the heart. Relationships are very important, but from Islamic counseling perspective, we will look at 3 layers of relationships, okay? And what I mean by those 3 layers is relationship with yourself, relationship with others, like social aspects, including your family aspects, your relationships, and relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? So from Islamic counseling perspective, you will literally scan a person who you're helping, or scan yourself on your process of growth from the perspective of 3 different layers. And over here, I've mentioned, what do I mean by that? So on the from the perspective of self, you're talking about fitra, jism, ruh, qalb, aql, and nafs. And from the perspective of relationships with others, this is that broad social aspects, but also we're having influences of ghaib. So we're talking about angels, we're talking about jinns, we're talking about qadar. But relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means you're accepting all of those. Not only do you know them, but you also know your Lord, meaning you understand his names and attributes, and you see them throughout the different experiences, most likely most difficult experiences in your life. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. And I have a full list of different aspects in counseling that we're going to cover. Let me just open that book with this exciting list. So we're going to talk about ambivalence, about boundaries, we're going to talk about diversity, ethics, frame of reference, about listening skills, judging or not judging, about hedonism, about immediacy, about resilience, about using silence, about UPR, you would find out what it is in a minute, values, well-being, what else, diversity, ethics, morals, neglect, and questions, how to ask questions, what questions are important, you know, what kind of questions they are. So it's going to be quite exciting. Another 3 months of us sitting here and contemplating what is mainstream counseling and how Islamic counseling is different. I hope that was helpful. I wish you absolutely amazing rest of the day.